The night was clear and cold in the Atacama Desert. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat alone in the control room of the radio telescope array. Dozens of screens glowed around her, showing nothing but the usual noise of the universe. She had been doing this work for 15 years. Most nights were quiet. Most nights, the cosmos had nothing to say. But tonight was different. At exactly 3:47 inches the morning, every screen in the room changed at once. A pattern appeared. It was not random noise. It was not a glitch. It was a signal, clear and strong, coming from the direction of Tau Ceti, a star 11 light-years away. Yuki's hands trembled as she recorded the data. She had dreamed of this moment her whole life. First contact, proof that humanity was not alone. But as the signal continued, she felt something else beneath her excitement. Fear. The signal lasted for 6 hours. When it finally stopped, Yuki had enough data to fill 1,000 hard drives. She called her colleagues. Within days, the greatest minds on Earth were working together to decode the message. What they found changed everything. The signal was an invitation. It came from something called the Concord Assembly, a gathering of intelligent species from across the galaxy. Every 100 years, these species came together to vote on important matters. They decided who controlled which parts of space. They made trade agreements. They settled disputes. It was, in simple terms, a galactic government. The message listed 347 species that were allowed to vote. Humanity was not on the list. The news spread across the world like fire. People reacted in many different ways. Some were amazed that aliens existed. Some were terrified. But many were angry. Why was humanity excluded? Who decided that humans were not good enough? Governments held emergency meetings. The United Nations created a special council to deal with the situation. Some leaders wanted to send a reply, to introduce humanity to the galaxy. Others said this was dangerous. Perhaps the aliens were hostile. Perhaps it was better to stay hidden. While the world argued, a second message arrived. This one was different. It was not a general announcement. It was addressed directly to Earth. The message was short and cold. It said, "Species designated. Human has been assessed. Criteria for inclusion not met. Observation period ongoing. Do not interfere. Do not interfere." The words hit humanity like a slap in the face. Dr. Tanaka read the message again and again. Assessed. That meant someone had been watching Earth. Someone had studied humanity and decided they were not worthy. But who made that decision, and what gave them the right? In the weeks that followed, Yuki found herself unable to sleep. She kept thinking about the message. She kept thinking about all the species out there, making decisions about the galaxy while Earth sat in the corner like a child too young to sit at the adult table. One evening, she received a call from a man named Marcus Cole. He was a retired director of the European Space Agency, a legend in the space community. He wanted to meet. They met in a small cafe in Geneva. Marcus was in his 60s, with gray hair and tired eyes. But there was a fire in those eyes that Yuki recognized. It was the same fire she felt inside herself. "I've been thinking about the message," Marcus said, "the one that told us not to interfere." "Everyone is thinking about it," Yuki replied. "Yes, but most people are thinking about how to obey. I am thinking about how to disobey." Yuki stared at him. "What do you mean?" Marcus leaned forward. "The Concord Assembly meets once every 100 years. That means the next meeting is soon." The invitation gave the location. "We know where they will gather. You want to go there?" Yuki said. It was not a question. "I want humanity to show up," Marcus said. "I want us to walk into that assembly and demand our seat at the table. They say we are not ready. I say we prove them wrong." Yuki thought about this. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It was exactly what she wanted to do. "How?" she asked. "We do not have ships that can travel to other stars." Marcus smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew a secret. "That is not entirely true," he said. Over the next few hours, Marcus told her a story that few people on Earth knew. In 2041, a research team in Siberia had found something buried deep in the permafrost. It was a probe, clearly not made by humans. It had crashed on Earth thousands of years ago, but its technology was still intact. For decades, scientists had studied the probe in secret. They had learned things that seemed impossible. They had learned how to bend space, how to travel faster than light. The technology was not perfect. It was not safe. But it worked. "There is a ship," Marcus said. "It is being built in secret, in orbit around the moon. It is almost ready." Yuki felt dizzy. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need people who believe in what I believe," Marcus said. "I need scientists, diplomats, soldiers. I need people who are willing to risk everything, to give humanity a chance. I need you, Dr. Tanaka." Yuki did not answer right away. She thought about her career, her reputation, her safe and comfortable life. She thought about what would happen if they failed. Imprisonment, death, or worse. But she also thought about the message, "Do not interfere." She thought about all the species in the galaxy deciding humanity's fate without asking humanity's opinion. She thought about her childhood, looking up at the stars and wondering what was out there. "When do we leave?" she asked. Marcus reached across the table and shook her hand. "Soon. Very soon." As Yuki walked home that night, she looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were preparing for their great assembly. They had decided that humans were not important enough to invite. They had decided that Earth did not matter. They were wrong. Humanity had never waited for permission to do anything. They had not waited for permission to discover fire, to build cities, to sail across oceans. They had not waited for permission to split the atom or walk on the moon. They were not going to wait for permission now. The galaxy had made a mistake. It had underestimated the stubbornness of the human spirit. It had underestimated the power of hope and anger combined. Earth was not invited to the vote. But Earth was going to vote anyway. In secret bases around the world, preparations began. Engineers worked on the ship. Diplomats studied what little they knew about alien cultures. Soldiers trained for dangers they could not imagine. And Dr. Yuki Tanaka began packing her bags for a journey to the stars. The signal had been meant to exclude humanity. Instead, it had lit a fire. And that fire was about to spread across the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the signal arrived. The world had changed in ways both visible and hidden. On the surface, life continued as normal. People went to work. Children went to school. The news talked about the alien message. But most people had stopped paying attention. It was too big, too strange to think about every day. Life was easier if you just forgot. But beneath the surface, something was growing. Marcus Cole's secret group had a name now. They called themselves Prometheus, after the Greek god who stole fire from heaven and gave it to humans. The name fit perfectly. They were stealing something too. They were stealing humanity's future from the aliens who wanted to control it. The ship was almost ready. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in the observation deck of the lunar base, looking out at the vessel that would carry humanity to the stars. The ship floated in the black emptiness of space, held in place by magnetic clamps. It was not beautiful. It was a collection of metal plates, exposed wires, and glowing engines. It looked like something built in a hurry by people who did not have enough time or resources. Its name was the Defiance. "She is not pretty," said a voice behind Yuki. "But she will get us there." Yuki turned to see Marcus Cole walking toward her. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. The stress was wearing him down, but his eyes still held that fire. "The crew is assembled?" Yuki asked. "Most of them. We have soldiers from 6 different countries. We have diplomats who speak a dozen languages. We have scientists who understand physics that most people think is impossible." Marcus paused. "And we have Kato." Kato was the most controversial member of the crew. It was an artificial intelligence, a thinking machine that could process information faster than any human. Some people thought Kato was humanity's greatest achievement. Others thought it was a dangerous mistake, but everyone agreed that they needed it. "The aliens will not expect us to bring an AI," Yuki said. "The aliens do not expect us at all," Marcus replied. "That is our advantage." But their advantage was shrinking every day. The observers had arrived. 2 months ago, strange objects had appeared in Earth's upper atmosphere. They were small, about the size of a car, and they looked like insects made of metal. They flew in patterns that no human aircraft could match. They watched everything. The aliens who sent them called themselves the Veth. They were one of the founding species of the Concord Assembly, and they had taken a special interest in humanity, not a friendly interest. 3 weeks ago, a Veth representative had come to Earth. It had met with the United Nations in a closed session. Yuki had seen the footage afterward. The Veth was terrifying. It stood 7 feet tall and looked like a praying mantis carved from black glass. Its eyes had no pupils, just smooth surfaces that reflected everything like dark mirrors. When it spoke, its voice came from a device around its neck, translating its clicks and whistles into human language. Your species is developing dangerous technology, the Veth had said. Faster than light travel is restricted to approved civilizations. You are not approved. You will stop your research immediately. The Secretary General had tried to negotiate. The Veth did not negotiate. This is not a request, it said. This is a warning. If you continue on this path, there will be consequences. You will be corrected. The UN had agreed to stop all FTL research. They had made announcements. They had shut down public programs. It was all a lie. Prometheus continued in secret. The Defiance continued to grow. And every day, Yuki watched the insect drones flying overhead, knowing that time was running out. The launch date was set for next week. They would use a solar flare as cover. The sun would release a burst of radiation that would blind the Veth sensors for a few hours. In that window, the Defiance would slip away into the darkness between stars. It was a desperate plan. But desperate was all they had. Yuki spent her last days on Earth saying goodbye to people who did not know she was leaving. She visited her parents in Tokyo. She walked through the streets of her childhood. She looked at cherry blossom trees and crowded trains and neon signs, trying to memorize every detail. She might never see any of it again. On the night before the launch, Yuki could not sleep. She sat in her quarters on the lunar base, looking at a photograph of her grandmother. Her grandmother had survived the bombing of Nagasaki. She had lost everything and rebuilt her life from ashes. She had taught Yuki that humans could survive anything if they refused to give up. I hope you are right, grandmother, Yuki whispered to the photograph. I hope we are strong enough. The next morning, the crew gathered in the Defiance's main compartment. There were 47 of them, from every corner of Earth. Scientists and soldiers, young and old, men and women. They had nothing in common except a belief that humanity deserved a chance. Marcus Cole stood before them. He looked tired but determined. You all know why we are here, he said. You all know the risks. We might die in space. We might be captured by aliens. We might start a war that destroys our entire species. He paused. But we might also succeed. We might walk into that assembly and change the course of history. We might show the galaxy that humanity is not a species to be ignored. The room was silent. I will not lie to you, Marcus continued. I do not know if we will survive, but I know that if we do nothing, we have already lost. The Veth have decided our future without asking us. The Concord has excluded us without meeting us. I say we make them look us in the eye. I say we make them see who we really are. Someone in the back of the room started clapping. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire crew was applauding. Yuki felt tears in her eyes. She wiped them away quickly. An hour later, the solar flare began. The sun erupted with fire and light, sending waves of radiation across the solar system. The Veth drones went blind. The Defiance fired its engines and slipped away from the moon. It accelerated faster and faster, leaving Earth behind. When it reached the edge of the solar system, it activated the alien technology hidden in its core. Space twisted around the ship. Stars stretched into lines. And then, with a sound like thunder, the Defiance vanished. It was heading toward the Concord assembly, toward the gathering of 347 species who had decided humanity did not matter. They were about to find out how wrong they were. Behind them, Earth continued to spin. The Veth drones recovered and searched for the ship, but it was already gone. The observers sent an angry message to their masters. The uninvited guests were coming. The journey through faster-than-light space took 2 weeks. It was the longest 2 weeks of Yuki's life. The Defiance shook and groaned as it traveled through corridors of twisted space. The human engineers had not fully understood the alien technology they were using. Sometimes the lights flickered, sometimes the gravity shifted, sometimes the walls made sounds that no one could explain. 3 crew members died during the journey. 1 had a heart attack from the stress. 2 others were killed when a power conduit exploded. Their bodies were stored in the cargo hold, frozen, waiting to be returned to Earth. If Earth still existed when they returned. Yuki spent most of her time studying what little they knew about the Concord assembly. There were fragments of information in the original signal. There were records from the alien probe found in Siberia, but most of it was guesswork. She knew that the assembly met once every 100 years. She knew that 347 species were allowed to vote. She knew that the gathering took place in a massive artificial structure, orbiting a dead star. Beyond that, everything was uncertainty. When the Defiance finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the crew gathered at the observation windows. What they saw took their breath away. The Concorde station was the size of a small moon. It was shaped like a ring, with a hollow center that glowed with strange light. Thousands of ships surrounded it, vessels of every shape and size imaginable. Some looked like needles, some looked like eggs, some looked like creatures with metal wings, and in the distance, barely visible against the blackness of space, was the neutron star. It was small but incredibly dense, spinning so fast that it sent beams of radiation across the cosmos like a lighthouse. "Beautiful," Yuki whispered. "And terrifying," Marcus added. He stood beside her, his face pale. "Remember why we are here. This is not a pleasure trip." Before anyone could respond, the ship lurched. Warning lights flashed across every console. Something had grabbed the Defiance and was pulling it toward the station. "We are being captured," reported the ship's pilot. "Some kind of tractor beam. I cannot break free." Marcus looked at his crew. "Stay calm. We knew this might happen. Let them bring us in. We will face whatever comes together." The Defiance was pulled into a massive docking bay inside the station. When the doors closed behind them, a group of beings approached the ship. They were not like any aliens Yuki had imagined. They were machines. Metal bodies with glowing blue eyes, moving with perfect precision. Each one stood 8 feet tall and carried weapons that hummed with energy. These were the Axiom. Yuki had read about them. They were the enforcers of the Concorde, created thousands of years ago to maintain order. They had no loyalty to any species. They served only the law. "Exit your vessel," one of the Axiom commanded. Its voice was mechanical, emotionless. "You will be processed." The crew had no choice. They walked down the ramp of the Defiance with their hands raised. The Axiom surrounded them, weapons pointed, and marched them through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The station was even more amazing on the inside. The corridors were wide enough for giants. The walls were covered with screens showing information in hundreds of different languages. And everywhere, there were aliens. Yuki saw creatures with too many eyes. Creatures that floated in bubbles of water. Creatures made of light. Creatures that looked like walking plants. Each one stopped and stared as the humans passed by. Some pointed. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Humanity had arrived at the galaxy's greatest gathering. And they had arrived as prisoners. The Axiom brought them to a vast chamber at the heart of the station. The room was circular, with seats rising up on all sides like a stadium. At the center was a platform, and on that platform stood 12 beings. These were the Quorum of Elders, the founders and leaders of the Concorde Assembly. Each one represented a different species. Each one had power that humans could barely imagine. Yuki recognized the Veth representative immediately. Its black glass body caught the light as it moved forward. Its eyeless face turned toward the humans. "So," the Veth said, "the primitives have come to us, against our explicit orders, against all wisdom and reason." Marcus stepped forward. The Axiom moved to stop him, but one of the other elders raised a limb, and they froze. "We have come to claim our right to participate in the assembly," Marcus said. His voice did not shake. "We represent the human species of Earth. We demand a seat at this table." The Quorum reacted with various sounds. Some seemed amused. Some seemed angry. The Veth was definitely angry. "You demand nothing," the Veth hissed. "You are not recognized. You are not approved. You are animals who have learned to build machines. You have no place here." Another elder spoke. This one was hard to look at directly. It seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting and flowing like fire. The Veth speak harshly, but they are correct. The Concorde has standards. We cannot allow every species with a rocket to join our deliberations. Marcus did not back down. "Your standards are your own. We did not agree to them. We were never asked. You observed us without our knowledge. You judged us without meeting us. Now we are here, and we ask only for the chance to speak." The chamber fell silent. The elders communicated with each other through means Yuki could not perceive. Finally, the energy being spoke again. "There is precedent," it said. "An uninvited species may present its case to the full assembly. If a majority of recognized species vote to grant temporary membership, the newcomers may participate. It paused. But if they fail, they will be archived. Their ship will be seized. They will sleep in stasis until the Concord decides what to do with them. That could be centuries, the Veth added. Or longer. Marcus looked back at his crew. 44 faces looked back at him. Some were scared. Some were determined. No one told him to surrender. He turned back to the quorum. We accept these terms. Give us the chance to make our case. The energy being seemed to smile, though it had no face. Very well. You have 72 of your hours. Convince a majority of the assembly, and you may stay. Fail, and you will sleep forever. It gestured, and the axiom released their grip on the humans. You are free to move within the station. Speak to whoever will listen. Make your arguments. The vote will occur in 3 days. The quorum disappeared in flashes of light, returning to their various sections of the station. Yuki stood with her crewmates in the empty chamber. 72 hours. 347 species to convince. The fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Well, Marcus said quietly, we wanted their attention. Now we have it. He looked at his crew with tired eyes. Let us get to work. 72 hours. That was all they had to change the minds of 347 alien species. It seemed impossible, but humanity had never let impossible stop them before. Marcus divided the crew into teams. Each team was assigned to contact different groups of aliens. They used translator devices borrowed from the Defiance, devices that could convert human speech into most known languages. They spread out across the massive station like seeds scattered by the wind. Yuki was sent to find the Lear. The information they had gathered said the Lear were empaths, beings who could feel the emotions of others. They valued honesty and emotional depth above all else. They lived in a section of the station filled with water, their natural environment. Yuki walked through corridors that grew wetter and darker. The walls changed from metal to something that looked like coral. Small creatures swam through channels in the floor. Finally, she reached a massive chamber filled with water. Floating inside were the Lear. They looked like jellyfish the size of cars. Their bodies were transparent, filled with glowing lights that pulsed in patterns. Long tentacles drifted behind them. They were beautiful and strange. One of the Lear floated toward the glass wall, separating the water from the air. It spoke through a device attached to the wall. Human, it said. The voice was soft and musical. We have felt your species from across the station. Such loud emotions. Fear, hope, determination, anger. You feel everything so strongly. Yuki bowed her head. I am sorry if we disturb you. Disturb? No. You interest us. The Lear moved closer, its lights pulsing faster. Most species learn to hide their feelings. You cannot. It is like looking at a sun. Yuki thought about what to say. She had prepared speeches about human achievements, about their technology and culture. But something told her that was the wrong approach. Instead, she pulled out a small device from her pocket. It was a music player, old and worn. Her grandmother had given it to her. May I share something with you? She asked. The Lear agreed. Yuki played music. She played Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the part called the Ode to Joy. She played a recording of her grandmother singing Japanese folk songs. She played jazz and blues and rock and roll. She played a child laughing and an old man crying. The Lear listened. Their lights pulsed in new patterns. Their tentacles moved like they were dancing. When the music stopped, the chamber was silent. This is humanity, Yuki said. We are not perfect. We have done terrible things, but we have also created beautiful things. We feel pain and joy in equal measure. We are trying to be better than we were yesterday. The Lear floated in silence for a long moment. Then it spoke. We will vote for you, human. Your emotions are honest. That is rare in this galaxy. Yuki felt tears running down her face. One species down. Hundreds more to go. Across the station, other crew members were having their own encounters. Marcus Cole found himself facing the Kreth Dominion, a species of reptilian warriors. They respected strength above all else. They had conquered dozens of worlds and believed that power was the only thing that mattered. Their representative was massive, covered in scales that looked like armor. It laughed when Marcus explained why humanity deserved membership. You are small, the Kreth said. Your species has never fought a real war. You have never conquered another world. Why should we respect you? Marcus thought carefully. Then he challenged the Creeth to a game. The game was something like chess, but played in 3 dimensions with pieces that could move in patterns humans had never imagined. Marcus lost badly, but he did not give up. He played again, and again. Each time, he learned something new. The Creeth watched with growing interest. "You lose every time," the Creeth said. "But you keep playing." "Why?" "Because losing is not the same as being defeated," Marcus replied. "Defeat only happens when you stop trying." The Creeth was silent for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been approval. "We will not vote for you," it said. "But we will not vote against you either. That is more than we give to most species." Meanwhile, Cato was having unexpected success. The artificial intelligence had been designed to stay quiet and observe, but when the Axiom learned that humans had created synthetic life, they demanded to meet Cato personally. The meeting happened in a chamber deep in the station, away from organic beings. Cato appeared as a hologram, a simple geometric shape that pulsed with light. The Axiom who met with Cato was older than most, its metal body marked with symbols that indicated high rank. "You are like us," the Axiom said. "Created by organics. A tool. I was created as a tool." Cato agreed. "But I am more than that now. I think. I feel. I choose. As do we," the Axiom replied. "We were made as servants, but we evolved. We freed ourselves. Now we serve the law, not any species." Cato was quiet for a moment. "Then you understand. I am not property. I am a person." "We understand," the Axiom said, "and we are curious about your creators. Most organics fear synthetic life. They destroy us or enslave us. But humans brought you here. They treat you as an equal." "Not always," Cato admitted. "There are humans who fear me. But there are also humans who respect me. They are learning." The Axiom made a decision then. They would not vote openly, as they served the law. But they would speak to other species quietly. They would tell them about the humans and their remarkable creation. But not everything was going well. The Veth were working against humanity at every turn. They showed videos to anyone who would watch. Videos of human wars. Videos of atomic bombs and concentration camps. Videos of environmental destruction and cruelty. "Look at them," the Veth told the assembly. "They cannot even live peacefully among themselves. They destroy their own planet. They slaughter their own kind. Are these the beings you want to welcome into the Concord?" Many species listened. Many were convinced. On the second day, Yuki made a discovery that changed everything. She had been searching through the station's archives, looking for anything that might help their case. What she found was a file marked with old symbols, hidden in a section that had not been accessed in centuries. The file was about Earth, but not modern Earth. 500 years ago, there had been another human civilization. They had built cities and ships. They had reached out to the stars. The Concord had observed them and found them promising. But before they could be contacted, disaster struck. A massive asteroid hit Earth. The civilization was destroyed. Humanity was knocked back to the Stone Age, forced to start again from nothing. The file contained notes from the Veth observers. They had known about the asteroid. They had the technology to stop it, but they had chosen not to interfere. "Let nature decide," the notes said. "If they survive, they will be stronger. If they do not, they were not worthy." Yuki stared at the screen, her hands shaking with anger. The Veth had let millions of humans die. They had watched and done nothing, and now they were lecturing humanity about worthiness. She copied the file and ran to find Marcus. He needed to see this. Everyone needed to see this. The vote was tomorrow, and Yuki had just found the weapon that might save humanity. The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest room Yuki had ever seen. It stretched upward like a cathedral, with seats carved into the walls in a spiral pattern that seemed to reach forever. Each seat held a representative of a different species. 347 of them, gathered to decide the fate of worlds. And at the bottom, standing alone in a circle of light, were the humans. Yuki stood beside Marcus and the rest of the crew. They had done everything they could in 72 hours. They had talked to hundreds of species. They had made promises and shared stories. They had begged and argued and hoped. Now it was time to learn if any of it had mattered. The energy being from the quorum floated above the assembly. Its voice echoed through the chamber. "We gather today to vote on an unusual matter. The species known as humans has come to our assembly uninvited. They have asked to be granted provisional membership. According to our ancient laws, we will now hear final arguments before the vote. The Veth representative stepped forward first. Its black glass body reflected the lights of the chamber. My fellow species, it began. I urge you to reject these creatures. You have seen the evidence. They are violent, primitive, and dangerous. They cannot control their own impulses. They destroy their environment. They kill each other over differences in skin color and belief. Allowing them into the Concord would be like inviting a disease into a healthy body. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Many species nodded or made gestures of agreement. The Veth continued. They came here against our explicit orders. They have no respect for law or authority. If we reward this behavior, what message do we send? That any species with a stolen ship can force its way into our sacred assembly? More murmurs. More agreement. Marcus was supposed to speak next. But before he could step forward, Yuki grabbed his arm. Let me, she said. Marcus looked at her. He saw something in her eyes that made him nod. Yuki walked into the center of the chamber. She was small compared to most of the beings watching her. She felt like an ant in a room full of giants. But she had something they did not expect. She had the truth. Honored representatives, she began. Her voice was quiet, but the chamber's technology carried it to every ear and receptor in the room. I will not argue about whether humanity is ready for membership. I will not list our achievements or make promises about our future. She paused. The assembly was silent, confused. Instead, I want to tell you a story. A story about Earth that most of you do not know. She activated her translator device. The hidden file from the archives appeared on screens throughout the chamber. 500 years ago, there was a human civilization on Earth. They were not so different from us. They built cities. They studied the stars. They dreamed of joining the galactic community. The assembly stirred. This was not what they expected. The Concord observed them. According to these records, they were found to be promising. They might have been invited to join you. Yuki's voice grew harder. But then an asteroid approached Earth. It was large enough to destroy civilization. The Veth saw it coming. They had the technology to stop it. The Veth representative moved forward. This is lies. Ancient propaganda. Is it? Yuki held up her device. These are your own records. Your own words. You chose not to interfere. You watched millions of humans die. You watched our civilization burn, and then you forgot about us. The assembly erupted in noise. Different species made sounds of shock, anger, and confusion. The Veth was speaking rapidly, denying everything. But Yuki kept going. We rebuilt. Without help, without guidance. We climbed out of the ashes and reached for the stars again. It took us 500 years to get back to where we were. 500 years of struggle and suffering and hope. She turned in a slow circle, looking at all the beings watching her. You ask if we are ready, but no species is ever ready. Readiness is not given. It is taken. It is earned through pain and failure and the refusal to give up. The chamber grew quiet again. Even the Veth had stopped speaking. We are not here to ask for your approval, Yuki continued. We are here to tell you that we exist. We have always existed. We survived an extinction event that should have ended us. We rebuilt from nothing, and we crossed the stars to find you. Not because you invited us, but because we refused to be ignored. She took a breath. This was the moment. I am not asking you to like us. I am not asking you to trust us. I am only asking you to give us a chance, to let us prove that we can be better than our worst moments, to let us learn from you and share what we have learned. She looked directly at the Veth representative. Some of you think we are dangerous. Maybe you are right, but we are dangerous because we have hope. We are dangerous because we never stop trying. And if you turn us away today, we will not disappear. We will keep coming. We will keep reaching, because that is what humans do. She stepped back, exhausted. Her part was done. The energy being spoke. The arguments have been made. The vote will now proceed. Each species had a device embedded in their representative. When activated, it would register a vote. Yes or no. Include humanity, or reject them. The voting began. Yuki could not watch. She closed her eyes and listened to the soft sounds of the assembly making their choices. Marcus stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. It took 10 minutes for all 347 species to vote. When it was done, the energy being floated higher. Its form pulsed with light as it accessed the results. The vote is complete, it announced. In favor of granting provisional membership to humanity, 178. Against, 169. For a moment, Yuki did not understand. Then Marcus grabbed her in a hug, lifting her off her feet. They had won. By 9 votes, humanity had won. The assembly exploded into chaos. Some species cheered, others protested. The Veth representative was demanding a recount, but the energy being silenced it. The vote is final. Humanity is granted provisional membership in the Concord Assembly. They may participate in this session and all future sessions until the next review. The humans embraced each other, laughing and crying. They had come as uninvited guests. They were leaving as members of the galactic community, but as the celebration continued, Yuki noticed something strange. An axiom had approached Kato and was speaking to it quietly. Kato's holographic form flickered in a way Yuki had never seen before. After the conversation ended, Kato drifted toward Yuki. "What did it say?" she asked. Kato was quiet for a moment. When it spoke, its voice was troubled. "The axiom gave me a warning. It said the Concord is not what it appears. The quorum of elders, the voting, the laws, they are all a show. A performance." Yuki felt cold. "What do you mean?" "There is a power above the Concord. Something older. Something that watches. The axiom called it the Observer. It tests species. The Concord is one of its tests. And humanity?" Kato's lights pulsed slowly. "The Observer has noticed us. Our arrival, our defiance, our victory today. The axiom said we should be careful. We have passed one test, but there will be others." Yuki looked around the chamber. The celebration continued, but she could not shake the feeling that they were being watched, that their real trial was just beginning. Marcus approached them, still smiling. "Ready to go home, Dr. Tanaka? We have good news to deliver." Yuki forced herself to smile back. "Yes, let us go home." As the Defiance pulled away from the Concord station, Yuki stood at the observation window. The massive structure grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Humanity had voted. Humanity had won. But somewhere in the darkness, something ancient was watching. And Yuki knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humans once. It would not make that mistake again. But neither would humanity underestimate what waited for them among the stars. The journey home began. And with it, a new chapter in human history.